screen share, so I'm just going to jump right in. And first, I'd like to begin by thanking all of the folks who have made this evening and are dreaming together about what's possible in the next few months here in Minnesota. So we're here to talk about what we think is a bold legislative platform to focus on Indigenous rights and climate justice. This is a platform that is being supported by multiple Indigenous organizations, also many different faith organizations who are coming together to bring our moral voice to the state capitol. So I want to thank my partners in this, Bob, Blake, and Winona. You'll hear from them tonight. And also for the folks who have shown up, Jim Bear and the Minnesota Council of Churches, the folks from Jewish Community Action, Beth, and Dave, and our partnership with that organization, Eco Faith Network. Emily and Jack will be working with you. We have folks from Moose Jaw, and it's wonderful to always be together with Karen and her team as we stand together on the front lines and everywhere else where justice is needed. And to the Episcopal Church, I spoke with Reverend Loya the other day. Buff and I spoke with him. They're totally on board and are planning to help us in whatever way they can. So I hope I didn't leave anybody out. But I wanted to begin with an image. It was June of 2018, and there were hundreds of us who were gathered at the state capitol, and that was a time where Line 3 had not yet been approved. We were delivering a letter from 578 faith leaders to the governor and to the Public Utilities Commission, and we were together with many hundreds of people as part of the Poor People's Campaign. That's a campaign that comes back to me again and again, because sometimes in the world you need to tell the truth. And I think that the place that I've felt most comfortable doing that is as I've stood with all of our Native allies up on Line 3. That's a place where truth telling has happened. So I'm hoping to invite you into this space. I'm going to introduce Jim Bear Jacobs, who's going to kick us off. Winona LaDuke is going to follow. And then we'll hear from some folks who are going to describe a 5-part platform. And you'll be able to hear a little bit more of the details of what we're hoping to accomplish this legislative session. We'll end by having some words from former Senator Patricia Torres Ray and our newest organizer at MNIPL, Juventino, Meza, who will tell us how it is that we can together support this shared work that we're doing at the legislature with Honor the Earth. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jim Bear.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It is such an honor and a privilege to be gathered with you all in this virtual space. My name is Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs. I am a citizen of the Stockbridge-Munsee Mohican Nation, which is our reservation is currently located 250 miles east of here in Shawano County, Wisconsin. I am the co-director for racial justice for the Minnesota Council of Churches, which is an ecumenical membership organization that represents over 1 million people in the state of Minnesota. And I am also a co-chair of the board of directors for Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. And I have had the distinct pleasure to conspire with and dream with and create with Julia and the many other incredible people with MNIPL over the last few years. And really, my passion both with MNIPL and my work at the Council of Churches is to help build movements and coalitions that bring people from the settler colonial community into relationship, engagement, and dialogue with Indigenous people and communities. For so long, really for the entire history of the Christian church in the United States, I would go so far as to say they have been on the wrong side of history in terms of how they relate and engage with people from marginalized communities, but also just for how they relate and live in community with the earth herself. And it is such a passion of mine to bring faith communities into relationship and engagement with the wealth of wisdom that is within our Indigenous communities, that wealth of wisdom in how we relate to the earth, how we live in a good and humble way upon the earth, and really how we come together and we dream a beautiful and sustainable future for our generations yet to come. And so I want to welcome each and every one of you here today. We have really a robust agenda in terms of what we are looking to dream and accomplish in this next year. So I will turn it back to Julia.
All right. Winona, I just want to thank you for your friendship and for all of the incredible work that you do. There's nobody on this planet that gets up every day and continues to do the work with more tenacity and grace and effectiveness. And one of the things that keeps me going as I think about both the wins and the losses is the fact that, you know, we can have what happened in 2021 and we still have to get up and keep doing the work. And anyway, I really appreciate your leadership personally and institutionally. And so I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us about what's been going on and why we're working on this together.
I mean, Indo, I'm going to talk hello, my relatives. Can you hear me okay? Cool. I appreciate the chance to be with you. I appreciate like all the times that you guys show up for us. You know, it is going to take a lot of work to make up for all the bad stuff the churches do. So we got our work cut out for sure. But we can do a lot of this together. And I always feel like we always got an opportunity to do the right thing. And so I'm going to talk about what we think is going on and a little bit about the history here. Give me a second. I got to share my screen in a not super awkward way. Here. Oh, let's see if I got this now. No. I am going to turn this into the old sacred. Aha. Did I do this yet? Is that a slideshow? Did I do it?
Perfect. Yeah, you could have even pushed slideshow. Perfect.
Oh, my word. Okay, so look, this is the economy of Minnesota. Should I just say that? That the economy of Minnesota has a lot of water in it, has a lot of wild rice. It's the only place in the world that grows. And for thousands of years, this was the main trade item of Minnesota, this region, Aking. We call it Aking, which means the land to which the people belong. Doesn't mean Minnesota, doesn't mean private property, means the land to which the people belong. So I just want to say, because I've been in so many meetings where they're like, mining, agriculture, and energy, that's the economy of Minnesota. It's like, no, it isn't. It's wild rice. It's maple sugar. It's water. It's trees. So don't forget where we are. Let's be the people that God gave us a great place to be here. That's me and my grandson out on Shell Lake. That's where I live by. It's of course at the head of the Shell River. Now, this is some of my experience, which is your experience. Last couple of years of this should have happened. You know, why are all these police, why are all these sheriffs from 92 separate jurisdictions and, you know, a horrible amount of money given to DNR, State Highway Patrol? Why are they doing it to us? Why are they doing this to us? Because we're trying to protect the water? So, you know, we had a brutal battle in Minnesota. We had a brutal battle in Minnesota, and we're right. Everything we said was right, and what we did was the right thing. And it's always the best thing to do the right thing, not to be a jerk, not to say, hey, whatever, to do the right thing. And so we stood up, and a lot of us got arrested, including my friend Julie and a bunch of you probably there. Thank you for getting arrested with me, because sometimes you got to get arrested to do the right thing, right? This is not my idea of what I want to do with my life. I didn't say, hey, I'm gonna go get arrested. No, I said, I'm gonna go protect the water. And so just remember, that's what we did. And in this process, we pointed out that Minnesota has making some bad decisions, like taking this money from Enbridge and watching a Canadian multinational take over your regulatory and your police system. But fortunately, we're not in Wisconsin, where actually they ran a governor candidate. That'd be Tim Michels. They ran him for governor of Wisconsin. That's the single largest Enbridge contractor. And they didn't win. But I'm just trying to point out, you got a Canadian multinational and more Canadian multinationals that are trying to take over your state. And so it's right to stand up and say, that's not a good idea and that's not going to happen. And so here's one of my arrests. I still have charges in this county from this incident. Everybody else's charges was dismissed. I don't know why my charges are still standing, but this is the Shell River. And this is also my grandchildren that are standing there behind us. There are a few of them are mine. I didn't produce all of them, but they all hang with us. But what is the point here? Because here we're also saying that there are these young people. Like I look in the cool people that are here, the 100 people that are here, I'm 63. We're like older people. But there's a lot of young people that stood up. And why we stand up is also because we could take some hits, because I don't care if I get a charge. Do I really care? No. But you know what? A lot of people got charges who shouldn't have got charges. And they should have got a medal for defending the waters of Minnesota. And so I just want to say that. And so the Water Protector Awards are on the 25th of February at the Women's Club. Please get your seats. We're going to be recognizing some people who came and stood up, because that's the heroes of Minnesota. That's the heroes of Minnesota, the people that stood up, musicians, artists, church people, a lot of cool people. So thanks for doing that. Okay, now look, this is where we are. All my life, I've fought bad, stupid projects. My whole life, and it seems like there's no endless of stupid projects that rich white guys come up with. Let us just be clear. That's who's usually coming up with one bad idea after another. So we ought to just call it out, right? But the point of this is that I fought nuclear power plants in my day. So did a lot of you, the NSP and the nuclear waste dump. Right? I fought coal-fired power plants. Like, oh yeah, there was that Big Stone 2 and, then all the mines out west, right? We fought all that stuff, right? And then I fought dam projects up in Canada, because you shouldn't be able to just dam the north and send the power to the south, which is pretty much what they do in Canada, right? The roads all run north-south. Oh yeah. All the resource lines, all the energy lines. So this is South Indian Lake, right? And basically, Manitoba Hydro is trying to say, you want to go green? Just buy some more stuff from us. Well, I'll tell you what, we're killing people up there. This is Muskrat Falls. This is out east, and this is like, a river drowned by water. This is the story of the North. So what I'm asking is the church community, the enlightened people, cannot replace coal-fired power plants with more dam projects. What we need to do is we fight one project after another, but no one ever questions the consumption. So let me just say one thing. Who is the single largest energy consumer in the state of Minnesota? It's Enbridge. Did I make that up? No, I didn't make that up. Enbridge is the largest energy consumer in the state of Minnesota. They told me that themselves. And why is that? Because moving sludge takes energy, right? So part of my point is that we can't be always trying to figure out some new answer to an energy crisis. What we need to do is not do stupid stuff with energy. I feel like miscommon sense here. But my point is like, look, you can't just replace one project with another project with another project. You've got to deal systemically with the inefficiencies of this Minnesota, of anything else, okay? And this is another thing you can do that's really cool. This is the taking down of dam projects, which is what they're doing out in Northern California now, and out, on the Columbia River. My point is like, all bad things can also come to an end, including these. All right. So look, next bad projects in Minnesota. Look here. This is what you call looking for unobtainium. I just went and saw that movie again, avatar. I should like sit first row with the 3D glasses on every one of those things, right? A little brutal, but look, the fact is that is the story of Canada. That is the story of Minnesota. It's like some giant mining company coming in. This is, we fought we fought the Enbridge Line 3 off of Big Sandy Lake because it was worth something. 400 of our people died there. That's like the mother lode of rice. And now they have this giant mess of mining claims. Oh, that's right. Rio Tinto Zinc, largest mining corporation in the world, is the backer for some junior Canadian corporation, Talon Mine. Now, why am I saying this? Is because they are whitewashing and jacking this up on steroids to try to run it through, because we all need some kind of green energy, like green energy from hydro plants, and now we need green energy from the unobtainium old minerals that they're going to get out of here. What am I trying to say is that the technology that they are looking at for their alleged great plan with Elon Musk, who is not the most reliable person, let me just say that clearly, is this, is going to destroy this whole ecosystem. Minnesota doesn't even know, because, I don't want to say white guys, but let's just be honest. They all think they're so flippin' smart. They have no idea about the water and the hydrology of the North Country. Only the Creator knows about where the water goes and where the mermaids live and how all the special beings move between them. You guys are spiritual people. You understand what I'm saying? So they got scientists, but you know what? They don't even have any studies of the hydrology here. So we need you to stand with us to hold this project off. And you know what? You hold this project off long enough, this project ain't going to happen. And how that works is this. I've been at this a really long time. You fight them and you fight them and you fight them, and the price goes up and the price go up. And then one day their investors say that is too much money. Okay. And that's what you got to do. That's how you defeat a Wendigo, is you steal that from them. You don't let them, you just make it more and more expensive for them. So I'm saying, come on, help us fight. I see Shania's on here. Honor the Earth is working with the people up there to, fight this big project. Okay, so look, take a breath. One bad project after another, okay? But what I want to say is spring's going to come. We got some much better ideas. That's part of this 5-point plan we have with you. I think that's how many points we got. I forgot, like 5 points. But, we are so grateful that we might have an opportunity to not get shunned or hated on at the Minnesota legislature. This would be like my first year of not being afraid to go to the legislature and getting shunned and hated, But look, we need to come in there with the good ideas, because it is obvious that the state of Minnesota hasn't had a good idea for a hell of a long time. Can I just say that too? I say that we need to come in there with the clear ideas, and we have the moral ground to do that because we just experienced insanity. Late stage addiction. That's what you call that behavior when you go beat up a bunch of water protectors in the north so a Canadian pipeline company can run a pipe through, at the end of the fossil fuel era. Okay, I don't need to say more about that. We all know. But look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to continue. First of all, we got to push on Enbridge. Oh, what am I saying? Well, the DNR we should have some hearings on the DNR, because what did they do? They basically, knew all this stuff, obfuscated, took a bunch of money, and they're about to try to do the same thing at the Tamarack. Let's call them and make this agency accountable. And then besides that, what about decommissioning? Does anybody have a plan? Or we just keep letting them put in pipelines that are going to fall apart? The money is in the green jobs of decommissioning. There's no darn hardware. It's all labor. So let's just start planning for a real clean up decommissioning that is paid for by the multinationals. Oh my God, what a brilliant idea. Make them clean up their mess. And let's get started now. Like Leech Lake, ask it to get moved out. So help us support Leech Lake to ask for a strong decommissioning plan. And then I'm not someone that thinks that technology saves, but I do know something about disruptive technologies. And the fact is that disruptive technologies transform the world. Like today, I am sitting here in the Zoom world that I never imagined could exist. I mean, I'm a kid that watched Star Wars, right? I used to watch that show and they beam him up, Scotty, and here I am. I'm like beamed up into some place I don't even know where I am, right? We're all the same age. We didn't think this stuff is possible. Disruptive technology like the internet transforms the world. Lithium batteries. Oh, yeah. Well, what about the old hemp batteries? Because it turns out that hemp which can sequester carbon faster than any other field crop. It's like when it grows so fast, it goes into its herd. And when it goes into the herd, it goes into the inside. When it is burned into a charcoal or a biochar, it forms this really strong kind of graphene that they use in batteries. That's about as all good as I could say, but I'm saying the one on the left is the one you want, and that's the hemp battery. And there's more of those coming. What we want is we call the new green revolution. That's the hemp economy. This is what it looks like up north. This is fiber hemp, 7 years growing fiber hemp, state permits, federal permits, and this is our field in Pine Point. Now, I just want to point this out because this field used to be an RDO off toxic field. And now here we are full of hemp. That's Ronnie. This is our hemp. There's some grandchildren out there. You know, we see the future, and Minnesota, we need the new green revolution. Minnesota used to have 11 hemp plants, hemp mills back before it was criminalized. We just want them back, you know, so. And in the meantime, we're going to clean up some industrial ag bad stuff in the north by putting it with hemp to bioremediate and sequester and do this land back work. You know, I just wrote this big blasting, piece I got held from Fargo about talking about reparations. You guys are talking about it. You know, let's do something, make it right. Let's support people to get their land back. Dakota people for sure, Anishinaabe people. Here's our land back, our red pieces there we got back. And then, make something cool. Did I mention that we need some better ideas? Oh my gosh, we so need some better ideas. And this is like the most simple thing. Everybody wants to go do like all kind of crazy and more advanced technology and needs the latest iPhone 15 or whatever the hell, How about if you had an appropriate technology? That used to be a term that they used to use in the 70s and 80s. Y'all remember that? Appropriate technology. What is the appropriate technology for this situation? Now, I happen to believe that solar thermal is the appropriate technology for the heat problem of northern Minnesota. Actually, a lot of people's heat problem. They could have used it in Texas. They certainly could use it at the Navajo reservation. Because what if you can build solar thermal panels that collect heat, reduce your, heating bill by 30 or 40%, or 30%, excuse me, don't exaggerate. My point is like reduce the load on the grid, reduce the load by doing local self-sufficiency and securing your time. Here you go. There's a bit. Wait, look at this one. One last one. This is Happy Indian People with warm solar thermal panels. And then this guy's about to come on, so I don't even need to talk about him, but I always put his picture on because he's my hero and he does cool projects like that, right? And that's what we need is more cool projects, not stupid projects. And so I just want to thank Bob Blake for being awesome and coming up with all these cool projects. And look, that is our agenda. Our agenda is pretty simple. They could call it the just transition, the new green revolution, the solar thermal, but all of those transformations reduce our levels of consumption, increase our efficiency, and reduce our Wendigo habits that make us act like jerks towards the environment. That's a simple way to put it. So this is what we want to see happen, and we want to work with y'all on it. This is my last slide. Look at that. I got through the whole thing. My gosh. This here is called the one dish, one spoon wampum. Okay. Now, a long time ago, I was doing some research. They said like 1100 or something is when we first made this agreement. This is a wampum treaty between the Six Nations and the Anishinaabe. It's called the one dish, one spoon wampum. In 1706, it was recorded in Montreal by some French guy, and that's how it definitely happened because somebody recorded it. Anyway, in this here, this is an agreement between peoples that said the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee people, we have the same territory. It's getting super complicated. We're looking at the territory and we say, you know what? We share this hunting territory, and it's one dish. It's one dish. We all eat from one dish. There's not like another dish. There's not even Elon Musk. I'm sorry to say there's not another planet. There's this one. This is our dish. One dish. And then what is said is we eat with one spoon. And you guys have that communion thing. Well, in our ceremonies, we a lot of times feed. We feed with one spoon, or now you use a sippy cup to be a little bit more safe, or eat with your hands. But what is the point of that teaching is that we are all sharing together and we are relatives. We are relatives. So look, That's this opportunity to be good relatives, to make this one dish, one spoon, treaty, reaffirm that, as we said, to remember that we are people that have this opportunity of privilege to do something great. So let us be those people and do our best in this session. So thank you very much for your time to be with you. And you guys are my heroes. Thanks for hanging out. Let's do some good stuff.
Thank you so much, Winona. I look forward to figuring out how to eat from one dish, one spoon.
You know what the meal was?
But
It's hominy beaver tail soup, just to let you know.
ooh,
So maybe we had that up at the Welcome Center in the wintertime when that wampum was given to us. Now, some of your vegetarians, we could just do the hominy part with some beans. But I'm saying, this is a real thing, and thank you for the honor of being with y'all.
I'm remembering an evening at the Water Protector Welcome Center with the big, huge pot on the fire. I think there was 100 people who all ate out of that one pot. And something about a real fire.
Yeah.
Put us together. All right. Well, folks, it's about time for us to turn to what it is that we're here to work on together this spring. And so we're going to talk about what we're now calling a Indigenous rights and climate justice platform. And it's a new year, it's a new political landscape. It's nothing we were expecting. We thought that we were going to kind of keep on with the same old, but maybe we now have an opportunity. We have a trifecta in the Minnesota legislature of people who could be climate champions and could take Indigenous and treaty rights seriously. The question is, will they? But I want to say that we know that change is not going to come in 6 months, and that this platform is just the beginning of what we hope will be an agenda that we are working on in all sorts of ways, in our local places, in our cities, federally, internationally, that what we're doing here this spring is part of the bigger picture. So I'm really delighted to hand it over to my colleague, Jessica Intermill. She's going to talk about the first part of our platform. And Sara, I think you're going to share your slides.
Thank you so much, Julia. It is my honor to see old friends here and make new ones. And I'm really excited to continue the Do the Right Thing theme that Winona very aptly put it as we get this legislative and policy arc kicked off. One thing that we're going to do as we move into 2023 is we're centering and prioritizing the work of reparations. And Sara, if you could begin slide sharing on, I think it is slide 8, we can talk about the reparations learning table. This is what we're going to start with to really invite you all to join us for any or all of this session. It's a 4-session arc, and I'm going to give Sara just a sec to catch up. Are we screen sharing? We are. Okay, good. I, for some reason, don't see that.
I don't see it either.
I'm going to just tell you about the reparations learning table. We have a 4-part series. You can join us for any or all of them. They'll be companion pieces, but also, so not repetitive, but standalone, but all work together. It's really accessible programming that we're going to have for an hour at noon for a couple different Thursdays beginning this Thursday. And we're offering this no charge to really make it the most accessible that we can, both to our live audience, and we'll also have the video recordings for offline viewing. We'll encourage you guys to take this on as study as an individual or within your faith community. We'll have follow-up about both. Invite you into this work so that we can really start from a really solid base. And as we go to the next slide, I'll give you a little bit of a preview. We do expect to challenge you in this work. Reparations is not a bland request for forgiveness. It's not a press for unity. As we'll explain in these sessions and really dive in, this work is modeled on what we're calling the reparatory eco map. Now, this is some work that the March table did March is both comprised of folks who are with MNIPL, like Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs, Reverend Terry Bernor. Liz Loeb is also at MNIPL, obviously, but also some folks like Ashley Horan and Dana Newhauser, Dr. Rebecca Vogel. All of these folks have a multiracial, multi-faith approach to reparations. And we have a graphic that shows that eco map where it talks about reparations is what lies at the center of truth-telling and spiritual practice and relationships and political solidarity and wealth return. It's multifaceted. We'll be talking about all of these pieces within the context of congregations and MNIPL's work. And we're going to use this tool as a really foundational way to enter into policy as well. If we go to the next slide, for example, one of the things that we'll be doing as an act of political solidarity is to support Honor the Earth's work advocating for state funding for the, oh my gosh, I have a very dry mouth right now. Juventino Treaty Rights Cultural Museum in Park Rapids. This is a really exciting project. It is taking off on Honor the Earth's work in the Line 3 fight. Winona was actually able to purchase the offices that Enbridge was using during Line 3, and we're going to help build that into a cultural center to showcase treaty rights and cultural rights. So we're really excited. This is just one example of the many opportunities that we'll be sharing with you for political solidarity, and we'll be moving into suggestions as well for wealth return. So we're really excited to integrate this into our policy work and to our congregational work. And I will turn it back to Julia for our next policy bucket.
All right, so next, Sara, you can keep sharing your slides and talk to us a little bit about climate goals and truth-telling, the second bucket of our platform.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I'm Sara Wolff, the Policy Director here at MNIPL, and it's just such a pleasure to be with you, and thank you so much to our speakers so far. So the first bucket that Jessica just spoke about is that reparations bucket. The second category of work that we're doing is around climate goals and truth-telling. And we know that Minnesota as a state is far behind in meeting our emission reduction goals as we set forth in statute in 2007. And we know that timelines matter. So really we need to be talking about how do we evaluate and judge the solutions that are before us. Here we have a chart from 2018 that shows us the sources of greenhouse gas emissions coming from our state. And this is a helpful tool so that we can be able to understand the categories of work that we are going to be engaging in. How do we figure out which climate solutions are worth our investment? First, we need to understand what our goals are. And I'm sure that many of you know what I'm about to say, but it is worth reiterating. We used to think a decade ago, 2 decades ago, that what we needed to do was to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in order to deal with climate change. And so that meant that we needed to find technologies that could reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. But what we've known since the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has told us this in 2018 is that we don't need to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, we need to eliminate them. And we need to eliminate them by the year 2050 as a planet. So this changes things for us because it means that things that create greenhouse gas emissions can't be part of our future. As we go here, then, we need to think about two different types of things. One, we need to do the good things that will work on these emissions that are right on the screen ahead of us that we're looking at right now. One of the really exciting things that we're looking at this session is passage of the 100% clean electricity bill. You'll notice here that the third bar down, the blue bar, is the electricity generation that we have across the state. And what this bill, the 100% bill, many of you have probably been working on it in past years and you're excited to work on it this year. We all are too. What this means is that all of our electricity generation can come from clean sources by the year 2040. So that is the 100% campaign, and we're going to be engaging in that. The bills have been introduced already, and you'll be hearing a lot more from us and others about how to engage with this work. But doing good things alone is not enough. We must also stop the bad things. And so we've seen how destructive something like a pipeline project can be. And line 3 is not the only pipeline project that is a bad project that we're going to need to be on the lookout for. What we need to look out for are those technologies that can't get us all the way to where we're going. Some technologies, or you will hear about some projects or policies that will be coming up that people will call a climate solution. And it's our job as a community to really vet those solutions and say, is this something that gets us all the way to where we need to go? Because if it can't get us there, it's a dead-end pathway. What's a dead-end pathway? It's an investment that can't get us to that final zero emissions goal. So for instance, before years ago, it might have seemed like a good idea to move from coal to natural gas because that could reduce emissions. But with what we know now, investing in natural gas is a way of diverting time, energy, and resources away from the final goal that we need. And there are other examples of this. So our goal is in this work together, we'll be looking out for the ways we can tell the truth to ourselves about what's worth investment and what isn't. A couple other pieces in this category here, and I'll just say that we have established as a state in 2007 goals for our carbon reductions. And as we've just been talking about, the science has changed. So we would need to update those goals, put them into statute, that our state goals are to reduce emissions to zero by the year 2050. And the Next Generation Climate Act is a bill that we'll be working on to do, it's being led by the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy. And we'll be working with that, working to support that bill. And I'd also like to just finally close out this section by talking about how we measure the projects and policies that we're putting forth and considering. So we are advocating for a climate note, a climate analysis to be able to be had for various projects and policies that legislators and other state agencies are recommending that we choose. So we can have information about the climate impact, the greenhouse gas emissions that accompany that project, whether it's to the good or to the bad. It's all part of measuring our emissions output and how we're going to get to the goals we share. So thanks so much for letting me explain that bucket. Now, Julia, is it all right with you if I head to the economic development and just transition section?
Please be on your way.
Great, thanks. And we've really, it was exciting to hear some Winona and others do some, share some slides and content that we have in this bucket as well. So I'd really like to invite, if Winona would like to come back on to talk about any of these pieces, I would welcome that, but just flag me down if that's the case.
Keep on going, Sara. We'll just hear from you. I think we heard some of her ideas before.
Awesome. So we've just come up from a space of understanding what our goals are, updating our goals, and understanding that we need to be measuring accurately to understand the progress that we're making. Now comes kind of the fun part. The fun part is talking about the innovation that is out there right now that we can support. Winona touched on one of the great projects that 8th Fire is working on, the solar thermal heating. And so we're advancing legislation to support that industry and that innovation, the manufacture, the training, and the installation of solar thermal heating to be an energy source that's economical and emission friendly all across the country. There's great potential here. Winona also mentioned the amazing potential in hemp and the need for our state to invest in hemp and other perennial crops that can achieve bioremediation in the soil and soil carbon sequestration. So these are, it's exciting to find out just how much hemp can help us. We're supporting these bills too. You've probably heard about Solar on Schools, and it's a wonderful project that we hope we can expand. Really, we're hoping and aiming for every school in Minnesota, every preschool, every higher education institution to be able to employ solar, because we know that energy costs are regularly the second highest expense for school systems. And when we can involve renewable energy, we're putting money back on the bottom line for those schools to be able to do other great things with them. Here are a couple of examples of schools that already have solar. One of the problems that is currently, we're currently facing is that smaller communities in rural Minnesota have a cap on the size of the installation that they can have on their school. And so that is something that isn't necessary and a disadvantage for those schools. So we're going to be working to make sure the playing field is level for all schools across the state. Solar apprenticeships are something we're working to encourage the expansion of, and that we can really have the pipeline of skilled workforce coming to build out the solar we're going to need across the state. So we've just kind of discussed a little bit about some of the specific projects that are going to help us with innovation, but we know that we need to bring this innovation to scale. And so we need to establish and fund a Minnesota Green Bank. A green bank is a quasi-government institution that can serve as a clearinghouse for information that helps green projects get built and also funds them with a variety of tools. So there could be regionally based branches that have knowledgeable staff about federal and state programs that are available. These staff can help smaller communities or organizations that need assistance and understanding the possibilities that are available to them from federal programs like the Inflation Reduction Act or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The purpose is to accelerate the deployment of clean energy and other projects that are good for ecosystems by reducing the upfront and total cost of adoption. So the Green Bank can leverage existing public sources and additional private sources of capital through strategic deployment of public funds in the forms of loans, credit enhancements, or other financing mechanisms. And the key is here that they're doing this for underserved markets. So this is really about equity, about enabling access for everyone to the benefits of our green economy. Finally, in this section, we just want to talk about how we have technologies now that we need to be employing when we build anything. We are in this amazing situation with a state surplus and federal funds being available to us, and a lot of building of a lot of different kinds is going to be happening, all for the good of people. And it can also be for the good of our climate emissions reductions plans. The state bonding projects, you're probably familiar with bonding is essentially saying, hey, we'll ask future taxpayers to pay for the projects that we're building today. And we believe that those projects shouldn't also burden us with climate emissions. We can build any project to be working toward the good for climate. And so whether we're talking about making a building that relies on renewable energy, for instance, here's a wastewater treatment facility with solar all around it. When we do this, we're taking we're saving these institutions money and ultimately taxpayers money as well. So we're encouraging the state to build to a zero emissions future starting as soon as possible. Everything we invest in should be building our future, not adding to an emissions deficit. And this last slide here in this section is really just showing that affordable housing can be built to a zero emission standard too. Not just any housing can be built this way, but affordable housing that we're building across the state can be done so in a way that helps not only zero out emissions, but also really reduce energy costs for the people living in these homes. So part of what makes housing affordable is how you're able to heat it and cool it and power it. So we're excited for this future, and we're excited to start building our best as soon as possible. And transit, building healthy electrified transit in Greater Minnesota and across the state is part of this transition as well. Okay, thank you. So,
right.
Yes, I'm going to move us now into this next section, which is really regulatory protection of people, land, air, and water. We're talking about building the future, and we're talking about building the good things. And we also need to be sure that we're protecting people, land, air, and water from the things that aren't good. And so I'd really like to invite Bob Blake to come up next. Bob, many of you know him already. He's an incredible advocate for Native involvement in the solar industry. He's an MNIPL board member. He's the executive director of Native Sun. And he's going to talk about a tribal energy advisory board.
All right. Well, Sara, I actually am here to let you know that Bob said that he is going to be on in 4 minutes. He was unable to initially get on, and now he's moved to a different place. So he would like us to wait on this and talk about it in a few minutes. So I'm wondering, are you ready to present? I'm here with my colleague Joshua Lewis, and maybe we'll jump to the 5th bucket and then we'll come back to this last one. And maybe we can just spotlight Joshua and take the slide away, Sara.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am rejoiceful for the opportunity to participate in what I feel is most natural to me, which is addressing the health of our society by standing up for the sacredness of each other and our source in Mama Gaia and the spirit of our Heavenly Father. I'm grateful to find myself in the company of MNIPL, our large interfaith network, the Environmental Justice Table, and the leadership of our Indigenous groups and their perspectives. In a value-focused and spiritually grounded team in this moment that's been presented now during this trifecta to improve our policy in environmental justice. Before I jump into the platform, I'll share a little bit of context from where I share this from. Sharing from the perspective of a descendant of freedom fighters, blessed by growing up in an intergenerational community in Northeast Ohio by grandparents who were forged in the red clay of rural Alabama under the tutelage of my great-grandfather, Reverend Woodson Lewis of the 200-year-old tradition in Little Mount Zion, the church baptized in fire, raised by his son and daughter-in-law, my grandparents, Prophetess Reverend Daisy Lewis, who ingrained a sense of community in the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, and a grandfather who ministered by keeping myself and introducing others who moved into our community to not just be close to, but in unity with the earth, their hands in the mud, how to plant and care for your own food, tilling, seeding, watering, picking, shucking, cooking, canning, and of course, eating. These folks talked it and they also walked it. And in my community, I was afforded a level of capital, being talented in school and in Ohio, probably more importantly, being talented in football. And I had such capital that it caused me to, at a young age, tender and naive, to really be insulated from much of the harms, at least perceptively so, causing the legacy and history of racism in our country. Nevertheless, as I pursued the opportunities that were made available to me, there were moments that caused me to look back and wonder, what of those I left behind? An eye-opening moment for me was when, in the town that my family lived in for over 40 years, a town that I felt like a hometown hero in, that had me declare at 10 years old in my granddad's garden to a community elder that racism didn't exist here, to which my elder fell out laughing amongst the bean plants and the collard green growth. My own younger sister in front of her high school was told by a white lady to return to where she came from. This opened my eyes to racial conflict and caused me to ask why. Where did this come from? And now as an adult, I understand more about the intentional effort to weaken by division and extract from the innocent and extract from our communities by any means necessary. I want to invite you all to take a second to reflect on a few questions. I want to ask you, what is your relationship to this effort to divide and conquer? Are you being taken advantage of? Are you benefiting from this dynamic? Are there ways that you might be benefiting from it that maybe you need to analyze in more depth? Are you an ally to those who are being taken advantage of? And how does your value and spiritual system call you to be a steward to the earth and a steward to your brothers and sisters, as Winona mentioned, we're eating out of this dish with? I would like to invite you to visualize what success would look like when it comes to environmental justice this year and our legislative platform. Visualize having clean water for all the little boys and girls growing up in overburdened communities by passing common sense legislation that would replace lead pipes. Visualize a balance to system and meandering, mindless waste buildup with policy that would enforce responsibility for the largest producers of waste in passing common sense zero waste legislation. Visualize the toppling of a chess move to pit the climate conscious against the poor by banning metro incinerators. This is a source of gas that is poisoning and giving chronic illness to our youth in overburdened communities at the behest of receiving incentives that are meant to improve our communities with renewable energy. Visualize the prioritization of the protection of our sacred, life-sustaining and providing water by having minds prove it first instead of cleaning up and apologizing after the damage has been done. Visualize the recycling of the maybe not literally countless, but seemingly countless number of expired or out of date technological devices, from televisions to computers and cell phones, in providing of jobs and an opportunity for the precious metals that we extract from the earth, to, instead of filling up landfills, to be reused and recycled in materials that we would utilize to build our future. And in the same context, protecting the landscapes and indigenous lands that are at risk when it comes to the mining of these rare minerals by piloting an e-waste facility. And visualize the passing of legislation and the protection of our most vulnerable communities and the lungs and hearts of the young boys and girls, and most importantly, the innocence of these young boys and girls, showcasing that they are a priority in our state's values, and that we will give it all to reverse the residue from our state's history of policy that sacrifices the innocent to protect the illusion purported by unbridled capitalism, in fulfilled recognition that this is not for the best. We can, by passing a cumulative impacts bill and forging ahead with societal behavior that reflects the universal principle kept, by treating others as you want to be treated. In closing, in the geography of the immaterial, I ask us to return to where we are from, that everlasting ancestor we are all the children of, and following that wisdom that is indigenous and black faces and Blackfoot's, not blackface, certainly not black faces, right? And Blackfoot's pinnacle of hierarchy of needs and that cultural perpetuity. Let's pass legislation and policy that will create a feedback loop in our culture that is pursuant of our highest ideals versus just individual ideals, and follow the lead of an organic and healthy indigenous root system, and establish harmony with nature and environmental justice for all. Thank you.
All right, well, you can see at least some of us are here together, so that's awesome. Sara, I think we now have Bob is now logged on, and so I'd love to go back to the fourth bucket of the platform, and thank Joshua for his incredible vision. I would love to think about the work that he's doing is based mostly in a group called the Environmental Justice Table, the EJ Table in Minnesota. Many of you know about this, but we're following the leads of some incredible organizers over there and building that work into our platform. So let's bring Bob on.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, hi, Anine, bonjour everyone. Great to be here tonight to talk about House File 1647. This is a tribal energy advisory board that will be created here in the state of Minnesota. This is the first one in the country. So kudos to the state of Minnesota for leading the way in this area. And essentially, what the Tribal Energy Advisory Board is going to do is it's going to be able to act as a kind of an intermediary and advocate on behalf of tribal nations, especially around energy development and being able to give tribes an opportunity to understand, what their rights are as far as transmission lines, energy infrastructure, such as pipelines and so on. So that's one of the cool things about this, and really, I mean, honestly, the hope here is that this could also be, eventually, as tribes move forward and create their own utilities, this could also be kind of the seedlings for maybe a tribal utilities commission. So that's probably pretty much the exciting piece about this. Obviously, we have to work on a state side. Tribal nations are under federal jurisdiction. We're not under state jurisdiction. So to be able to have this in the Minnesota doing this is just really groundbreaking. So this has gotten bipartisan support. I want to send a big shout out to Athena Hollins, Representative Becker Finn, and Catherine Blavant of the Department of Commerce, who really were the champions of this. And so really exciting for this to be implemented. And I am talking to other states, and I'm talking to other communities around the country that are looking at this and are going to go ahead and try to implement it into their own states. So miigwech, everyone. Thank you for having me. And please, if you have any questions, I'd feel free to get in touch with me. We are having FERC come in, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission come in April to have some meetings. Would love to have anybody and all involved in that. And because they're going to be talking a lot about transmission and interconnection. So really exciting time for tribal country, and really happy to see all this move forward. And thank you, and miigwech, everyone, for having me this evening.
All right, well, if folks know Bob, you'll know that there's nobody who is able to bring people together better than Bob Blake. The fact is that he's got folks on both sides of the aisle supporting a tribal advisory board, that energy advisory board, that's going to help bring the Native voice into the regulatory process. And when I think about all that went wrong over the last 10 years with the pipeline approval process and the types of work that we have to do to get interconnection on tribal land, if we could actually have tribal governments and Indigenous folks leading the way, we would be in a much different place. So supporting this bill is really exciting. We're hoping that you're right, it's going to pass, but we need to get out there and make sure that people across the state care about Indigenous leadership in our energy systems. Okay, so I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to just talk for one more second about why it is that this platform is one connected piece. Tell you a few more things about our fourth bucket, which is this regulatory reform. And then we're going to hear from former Senator Patricia Torres Ray and Juventino Meza about how we're going to collectively take action. All right. So we have seen a ton of bad decisions. We've seen a legacy of genocide and broken promises. We are ready to get to work, really being in a place to understand and take measurable material action on reparation. We're going to tell the truth about climate change and what we need to do in order to ensure a future for all of us. We are going to flood rural Minnesota and communities where economic opportunity has not been present with the opportunity to be part of the green revolution. One of the reasons that we lost on line 3 was that people in rural Minnesota didn't perceive that they had other options. We want to make it indisputable that the renewable energy revolution is here and that it's for them. That's the third bucket. The fourth bucket is let's fix all the things that went wrong. All of the folks at agencies and in the governor's office and at the PUC said, well, we weren't able to stop line 3 because we didn't have the legal jurisdiction to do that. We want to make sure we change the laws so that the regulatory system actually protects the people and the planet. And we're hoping to follow Indigenous leadership as we make that road. And lastly, as Joshua was talking about, we're going to center the people who have been harmed before. We're going to make sure that when we have to pollute, that it's not in places that have already had unreasonable pollution. So we'll be thinking about environmental justice as an umbrella over our whole campaign. So I am so incredibly thrilled to be able to introduce Patricia Torres Ray. Because Patricia has been a longtime friend of mine and has been a hero of mine in the Minnesota Senate. She's always stood up for first the children, invested in daycare and healthcare and making sure that nobody is harmed, and has been part of this conversation about environmental harm for 2 decades. So she is going to be joining this platform team, this coalition of groups that are working on this platform as our legislative strategy consultant. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about that. And with her has come as part of our staff, Juventino Meza, and he's going to talk a little bit about the kinds of help that he needs from all of us to move these agendas forward. So let me hand it to Patricia, and then Buff, you'll go last to talk about our network. Does that sound right? Okay.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's wonderful to see all of you. I see many familiar faces, people who have supported me in the past, people who live in District 63, in Minneapolis, many parts of the state, people that have worked with us over the years, and I am delighted to see you. I am delighted to share the stage with Julia, Winona, Sara, all of you, Joshua. Thank you so much for this invitation to work with you. The most important thing that I think I need to say tonight is thank you for being part of this important movement. I believe that there are close to 2,000 lobbyists registered in the state of Minnesota. I'm pretty sure that's the number. Many of them are working in this sector. And we have you. We have you to be the voice for the communities and to help us push this agenda forward. So we have begun the work in the legislature and are building on the relationships that we have built with many legislators in the House and the Senate. People who work in their districts in these fields. And Sara mentioned the bills that IPL and Honor the Earth will be moving, and very specifically staffing, who and I will be staffing the 2 organizations. But let's remember that we have $17.6 billion that need to be invested this year, and we are going to fight very hard to make sure that those investments are made in our communities. We also have several $billions coming from the federal government that we intend to bring to Minnesota and make sure that our tribal communities, low-income communities have access to. And I just want to remind you of the 4 specific bills that IPL and Honor the Earth will be pursuing, because I think it's important that you remember the specific areas that we're lobbying for. So these are the solar in the schools, to expand the access to solar in the schools, the hemp industry, the solar thermal heating, and we also want to work very efficiently in designing this green bank concept that will help us access many the federal dollars and the resources that are available at the state level. In February, we're going to have the day at the Capitol, and we are going to design this in a way that you are going to be the messenger on behalf of Minnesotans. You are going to deliver these messages to each representative. Remember, we have to get in touch with 67 senators and 134 representatives. We have a lot of work to do. And you will be in charge of helping us deliver this message on behalf of our communities, on behalf of Minnesotans that will not be able to participate that day, that are not able to be at this table tonight to prepare for that. You are going to be the messengers. And today we start that work by figuring out who you probably already know. Who are your representatives? Are they the authors in these bills? Can they be co-authors? Who in our communities can influence the participation of these representatives and these senators to make absolutely sure that these concepts, these ideas that we have today become law? So that's our work. That's the task. And I am excited that we have tonight 114 people ready to start and ready to participate in this. 114 people can do a lot of work. And we are ready to give you the tools and to give you all the information and all of the logistics that are necessary for us to accomplish what we need to accomplish this session. Thank you so much.
Patricia, will you just give us a little taste of the meeting that you attended yesterday in which you were able to represent the sort of the essence of this platform at the legislature?
I have to tell you, many of you know that this is not new to me. It has felt very lonely for 16 years being at the table with senators where you don't have a lot of representation of communities of color and indigenous communities. But when you are in the audience in this particular committee, you feel the need to bring community voices in a very different way. Yesterday, we had the first meeting of the Minnesota Senate Energy Committee, in which we received a presentation about the federal dollars that are coming to Minnesota. Unfortunately, we had no representation of tribal communities, communities of color, and very little representation of our environmental justice networks. And the reason is that these meetings are being scheduled incredibly fast. And the agendas are written as we speak and posted in less than 24 hours. So it's very difficult to really organize a community voice that can participate and bring your voices. So that is what I am trying to do with Julia and Winona to get ahead of that and make I have worked in this for 16 years, so I know how it works. But it is very frustrating for communities because I know that you want to participate, you want to be in the room, and you want to provide testimony. Unfortunately, we don't have the schedule soon enough to call you and say, we need you here now in this room. But what we're going to do is do our absolute best to make sure that we have this information for you, that we pass it on to you, and that you are informed, even if it is not on time for the committee. It will be on time for you to get in touch with your legislator. It can be 2 days later. It could be a couple of days later, but you need to get in touch with your representatives in order to influence the outcome. You might not be able to be in the room for the hearing, but you are part of our network that needs to be ready to call your legislator and ask for support. So I was telling Julia that it was a difficult task to come with the testimony right away, but we are trying to be ready and be there when we are needed. And that is the reason that they have hired me to do. And we have a letter from Winona that she prepared today that we will be presenting tomorrow about him. And so it works like this. It's just 24 hours notice is that, but we will be ready to work on your behalf and on behalf of tribal communities and low-income communities in Minnesota.
One of the questions in the chat was from Judy Helgen, who's asked, are we going to provide the bill numbers and the up-to-date opportunities for when folks can weigh in? And I wanted to quickly share a form that you all can fill out, because it gives you the opportunity to be part of a rapid response team. We will be sharing the details of all of this in the platform that you can see, and there'll be updates to that and regular communication. But you can also be on part of a rapid response team, which is to say, wow, something big has happened, and we will be emailing or calling you and asking you to take action on that one particular thing when it's most necessary. So I'd like to hand it over to Juventino to talk a little bit about how we're gonna work together on making this happen.
Thanks, Julia. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited and happy to be here, and thank you for your time. My name is Juventino Meza, and I will be the bridge between all of the amazing work Senator Torres Ray is leading at the legislature and engaging you in supporting this bold agenda for Indigenous rights and climate justice. As you've seen, we have a bold agenda, and we're going to need each and every one of you. We have a number of ways for you to support our efforts at the legislature. You can sign onto our platform, and a link should be provided to you. We're going to have study groups and do a deep dive on 2 legislative goals: solar on the schools and green banks. Green Bank. We're going to keep you informed with bill numbers, messagings, and ask you to help us organize your local communities to contact elected officials. We're going to provide you with samples for emails, letters, calling, but we're also going to set up meetings to meet with your legislators, write letters to the editor. We also, as Julia mentioned, want to set up a legislative response team that we can easily reach out if we need some last minute support in some capacity with our legislative agenda. A link to sign up should be provided with you here as well. But like, here's an example. If you have some free time, let me know. I need some help putting together a list of local publications in specific districts around the state. So then we can ask other folks to submit op-eds. We also want to invite you to the Capitol January 25th for the lobby day for the 100th percent bill, and on February 15th for our Indigenous rights and climate justice rally at the Capitol. Finally, don't forget to share information we share with you, with your folks. Donate to support this work, and follow us on social media. Again, I'm really excited to be part of this work. And thank you again for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you to our legislative agenda for Indigenous rights and climate justice.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Juve. We got some response from some folks who tried to link onto the form and it didn't work. It should be working now. Try it again. We are going to send everything that you have heard here tonight. You'll get in a response email, including the slides, so you can be able to engage in all those ways, from your computer in the coming weeks. All right. We just have a couple minutes left for questions or discussion before we hand it over to Jim Bear Jacobs to close us out. You're welcome to go off mute or to put a question in the chat.
Julia, perhaps I could ask people if they already know who their representatives and senators are. I think that would be a good assignment for us tonight to make absolutely sure that they're connected. A lot of legislators have new legislative aides, and so some people are surprised when they call and legislators no longer have the same number or the same room number. So we encourage you to make absolutely sure that we look, actually the directories are not even uploaded yet. So it will be until the end of the month that we really have specific information about legislative aids. But if you do not know who your legislator is, it's very easy to Google and just say, who is my legislator? And then it will take you to the House website, and you just put your address and it will tell you exactly who your representatives are. If you haven't done that, please do so that you can connect, especially if you have a new legislator, a person that was just elected. They probably have new staff and a new office. And in the Senate, every office is, for the majority, is a new office. So remember that.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I'm not there right now, but I'm from Ely, Minnesota. And there are several really active groups that would definitely want to be and be great at being part of this. And so how do I get that information to you? I will contact them as soon as I can.
That is a great question. Actually, I'm going to hand it over to you. And I don't know if you want to share the slides on the movement builder approach, or, but I guess I will quickly answer Betsy. We were going to be sending out an email tomorrow in which you are given everything that you've had here tonight, a copy of the recording, the slides, all the links, everything that you might need. But I'd love to hand it to my colleague Buck Grace, who is the Director of Faith Community Networks, to talk a little bit more about your question.
One of the participants put in the chat a little earlier, just to remind us of all the non-human people that non-human creatures to which we're networked. And as so many of you on the call know, we are part of a huge web of life and creation here. And you all are part of the MNIPL network. You are connected to this kind of content and this kind of ideas and these leaders that we've heard from tonight. And you yourselves are leaders. You're connected to your congregations, your neighborhoods, your communities, and so we want to vitalize that network. We want to help you get more people involved. Just as you came tonight, we want to assist you to bring more people to the table and to get more people active, to help make this vision that these leaders have shown us tonight a dream, and a vision that's a reality. So this slide, as many of you know, is the familiar snowflake model of our networks. We are so grateful that you are part of our networks and that you help us connect to your congregations. And so that's the hope, is that starting tomorrow, you'll receive an email with all these links that will help you become even more educated. You can review the recording and refresh yourself with the information that you've received tonight. You'll get the links that help you take more actions, and the actions that are appropriate to you in your context with your congregation, the pieces of the platform that fit your congregation that you know that will really excite your people to show up and to support their representatives. We're going to have study groups to study some of these issues more in depth. We're going to have in-district meetings to help you set up meetings with your representatives. This is going to be a robust response, and we're going to support you with resources all the way. So.
Awesome. All right, Jim Bear, I think it's time for us to close out this formal meeting. I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of the presenters and speakers this evening who have just shared a wealth of information, shared from your heart, shared from your passion, shared from a lifetime of wisdom in doing this work. And so on behalf of Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, incredible amount of gratitude goes out to you and to all of our participants are here with us. And I just want, as I close out, I want to leave us with this thought. This seems very big. It seems very, very big. But you know, in order to accomplish the impossible, we have to dream the impossible. And after dreaming the impossible, we have to inspire, we have to organize, we have to rally, and we have to fight. And this is our call. This is our call as relatives, as part of this connected family of two-legged beings, to walk on the earth in a good way, in a humble way, and to, as Sara said in her presentation, to do good things, but also to repair the bad things that have been done, to stop doing the harm. And so I encourage you, stay connected with Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light as we begin to implement and roll out this agenda. And we will keep you apprised of our events and points of connection and how you can get involved. So as we say goodnight to you, I hope that this evening has been inspiring for you. And I trust you, we trust you to go out there and with us to dream the impossible. And so with that, thank you.